Hey guys, in today's video we've got a special guest.
Hello.
Parth G. Most of you probably know him already from his own channel, but today we'll be talking about how to get into Cambridge. We're going to discuss everything that you guys need to know and do to get into Cambridge. So, should we get to it?
Let's get to it.
Just introduce Parth, if you don't know him yet. He's a fourth year physicist at Jesus.
I am indeed. Same college as Sen.
Same college, Jesus
best college.
Yeah, the best, definitely the best college.
Definitely the best college.
And yeah, Parth has been here for much longer than I have. So he's got lots of tips. So when you're applying to Cambridge, subject choice is very important. Do you not agree? I
absolutely agree.
And one of the key things that they'll assess you is on how interested you are in the subject, how much passion you have for the subject. So what do you think they look out for, Parth?
So I think personally Cambridge interviewers are looking to find out exactly how much you really want to study a subject. Now, a lot of people will want to go to Cambridge and Oxford and universities like this purely for the name, but you cannot afford to do that just for the sake of the name of the university. I think you have to be in love with the subject that you want to be studying.
Yeah.
You have to really enjoy it. You have to be willing to dedicate essentially a full-time job and even more to the subject that you're going to be studying. There has to be full commitment for that kind of thing.
Because the courses here at Cambridge or even at Oxford, they're just so intense, aren't they?
Yeah, although Cambridge is slightly more intense than Oxford, but yeah.
That is true. You won't be simply learning about a subject, you'll be learning literally the basis and the foundations of the subjects. And the depth to which you go here, is unparalleled to any other university in the world, I'd argue.
Absolutely.
So when it comes to applying, you need to sort of work out what exactly interests you about the subject you've chosen. So you chose physics.
I did.
How did you sort of, portray your interest in the subject, and how did you go about it?
I think one of the most common things to do is to say that, ever since I was a child, I was interested in this subject, blah. And I have been guilty of that kind of thing in the past as well, but you have to really pick something that tickles you, that, makes you passionate about what you do, and you have to learn a little bit about it, maybe do some extra reading outside of, all your studies that are going on, so A-levels and stuff, or whatever you're doing, and learn a little bit about that topic. So what I did was I read a few books. I think that's, commonly recommended is to read books on your subject.
And actually read them, right?
Absolutely. And so one of the books, I get asked quite often what books I read, and one of the ones that I read was Stephen Hawking's A Brief History of Time. Ridiculous book. I spent many a train journey trying to understand what is actually going on in that book. And it's designed for anybody to be able to read, so you don't need to be a physicist to be able to understand it, but he's trying to explain concepts that are, very complicated. Now, for a physicist, reading, trying to understand outside of work, learning about experimental technique, learning about physics, the subject in general, and other physicists, very important. But I know for a medic, it's actually even more intense because you have to do work experiences and so on and so forth. And
yeah, for medicine, because you need the experience, you need to sort of understand what you're getting yourself into. Throughout your AS levels and A2 levels, they want to see that you've done work experience, that you've read books, that you've been to laboratories.
The thing is, right, when you're trying to apply for university, sometimes it can be quite difficult to be fully committed to a subject. And I realise this, and we all realise this, and even realistically, the interviewers at Cambridge realise this. The point is that even if you are not 100% committed to a certain subject, you have to show that you are at least very interested and committed to that subject.
Yeah.
Because once you get to Cambridge, there are opportunities to switch subject if you want to.
Exactly. If your subject of choice, if the subject you apply for doesn't actually, tickle your fancy, they're very flexible here, and they would love to offer you different subjects.
Yeah. But the point is, if you want to get in, you have to show that grit, that commitment, that, intenseness, that level of, conviction, and, pick something that you like and just run with it and go as far as you can. So, my advice would be to not be lazy just because you don't know exactly what you want to do. Try and pick roughly what you want to do, learn a lot about it, push yourself in that field, try to get an interview, and then at Cambridge, if you do get in, you will have the opportunity to change your mind if you want to. Cambridge is trying really hard to change the fact that, it has a certain reputation, and Cambridge is working very hard to ensure that anybody who deserves to be here comes here, regardless of, financial position or class or race or
whatever,
gender, whatever.
Cambridge wants to be an academic powerhouse.
Absolutely.
It wants to have the people who love their subjects the most here. That's all Cambridge wants. So if you think you can provide that, bring it along.
And I think, at least, over the past sort of couple of decades, or over the past decade or so, the people who are high up in Cambridge have become smart enough to realise that they're not going to get anywhere by excluding people, especially if they deserve to be here. So there's no point in trying to preserve, the stereotype of a typical Cambridge student. They will let anybody in who deserves to be here. Like I said, if you're passionate about the subject, if you enjoy what you do, if you've got the grades, and if you want to be pursuing that subject more than anything, then you deserve to be here, and Cambridge realises that.
Now, we've talked about physics and medicine, but for example, land economy, English, economics, biology, whatever you love, just read books about it, read into, a certain thing that you're interested in. For example, if it's English, read about a certain era of literature or something. And, of course, if you're interested in the subject, you'll have things you're interested in and curious about. So make sure you actually read about this and mention this in your personal statement. And if you mention it in your personal statement, and if it's interesting, at interview, the interviewers will pick up on it, won't
Absolutely.
they? Because they'll be interested in what you're interested in.
Exactly. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, they'll be like, so, you're interested in this topic. What do you think about it?
Yeah. The people who do interviews and select students have been doing it for years and years. And if they're new, they've been trained by people who've been doing it for years and years. So they've got it down to a formula that works very, very well. And, there might be mistakes occasionally, but they don't make that many mistakes. And certainly if you're lying on your personal statement, they will find out.
And it'll be quite embarrassing at interview.
Absolutely. But at the same time, that's not to say find out who your interviews are and then read the books that they've written. That's, extensive.
I think if you do that, what happens is the interviewer will kind of realise quite quickly.
Yeah.
And then once they realise that you're trying to be smart, they will really pull you down to the depths of hell, because they don't like people who pretend to be smart.
Yeah.
If you're smart naturally and if you've got intellect, they'll kind of pick up on that, and they'll lead the interview in such a way to test and push your academic potential. I think.
And more than smart, I think what's more important is hardworking and committed.
Definitely.
Like that's what I see the most of at Cambridge. There are smart people everywhere. They're just not hardworking people everywhere. There are not committed people everywhere. There are not passionate people everywhere, and that's what we see at Cambridge the most, in my opinion. Anyway, I see a lot of people who are solely devoted to what they do and enjoy. And obviously, Cambridge life is tough, but at the same time, these people are here for a reason.
So, as well as being super duper interested in your subject that you're applying for, your academic grades and your academic profile should be on good point. Now, it is understandable that people come from different schools and different backgrounds, and this can affect your marks and your grades. But at the end of the day, you want to sort of put across an application which shows that you've tried your hardest in whatever situation you've been.
Exactly.
So if you come from a privileged background, for example, you should have done extremely well because you've had all the facilities and resources. If you haven't had that luxury, but you've still tried really hard, then it'll still come across, I think.
Exactly. So, I can speak only from my experience, but I went to a state school, and I was one of the first people to apply to Oxbridge from my school, and Cambridge will take that into account because they see that there are people who are talented in state schools, they see that there are people who are talented in private schools, and they will give you a place depending on, your I keep saying commitment and passion, and same buzzwords over and over, but that is the point. That's what they care about. Your academic profile does have to be very strong. As far as I've heard, Cambridge and Oxford care a little bit more about academic grades as opposed to the whole person than other universities, but not enough for it to warrant trying to aim for 6 A stars at A-level or something ridiculous like that. Meet your minimum offer, meet the grades that you need for a minimum offer, and then make yourself a well-rounded person, and then show why you love that subject. GCSEs do matter, yes, not as much as A-levels do, so if you've got bad GCSEs, don't worry, you can still, pick it up in A-levels.
You can smash for A-levels and then they'll consider you...
Yeah, and if you've got good GCSEs, well done, you're already on your way to Cambridge, I guess.
Yeah. So make sure you do well enough in your first year of A-levels and in the internal exams that your school predicts you at least 2 A stars, 2 A's if you're doing sciences, A star, AA for the humanities subjects. Because if you don't meet these minimum requirements, if the school doesn't believe in you, it's very unlikely for Cambridge to believe in you because at the end of the day, even if you've got an offer, you need to get your A-level grades to come here.
Although having said that, my school didn't believe in me. They predicted me an A star and 2 A's, and I was confident I'd get more than that, and I got 3 A stars. So but as long as you're meeting your minimum requirement, then you're fine. Yeah, exactly. And then it comes to if you've got the minimum requirements, then it comes to thinking about interviews and
entrance exams actually.
Yeah, of course. Some colleges had entrance exams plus 2 or 3 interviews or something like that.
Okay.
So at Jesus, one of the reasons that I applied to Jesus, A, because I'd already seen it and that was the college that I fell in love with, and B, because there were only interviews, I didn't have to sit a test. That no longer applies, so
for medicine,
sorry.
Yeah. For medicine, if it's Oxford or Cambridge, whichever one you apply to, you have to do the BMAT.
Yeah.
And different colleges look at the BMAT with different sort of, levels of seriousness. Some colleges favour different sections. So far we've covered how important it is to be passionate for the subject you're applying for, but also your academic profile. Now we're going to talk about your academic potential.
Absolutely.
So when you apply here, they are looking for people who not only have done really well in school, but for people who can do well here at Cambridge as well. They don't want someone who's done really well at school and then will just come here and get, barely pass each year and sort of just go along like that. They want someone who can come here, use the resources, use the facilities and all the lovely things that Cambridge offers, and sort of excel in a new, unexpected way. They want you to really push your potential and get you to the best level possible. And that's one thing that's truly special about Cambridge. It's this academic potential that they're sort of trying to look for at interview particularly. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I have to agree with that. When it comes to interviews, a lot of people are worried about what they have to say, how they have to behave, what kind of stuff that they'll be asked. Now, first of all, I want to clarify something. You see all of these sort of interview questions, these Oxbridge interview questions that are completely ridiculous. Like, here's one particle, calculate the mass of the sun, and then, do something with it so that you can integrate the differential of...
Or why is banana yellow or something?
Yeah, exactly.
All these wacky questions.
Yeah, you hear about all of these... And I personally wasn't asked anything like that in my interview. Were you?
I don't think I was. I think I was asked a bit of like an abstract question that was related to my sort of A-levels.
Right.
But nothing just out of the blue. But the most important thing is that you take logical steps.
Yeah.
So take a step back when you get these sort of weird questions, because at the end of the day, they're trying to see how you're thinking.
Absolutely.
Because in Cambridge, look for a specific sort of like thinking process.
Yeah.
They're looking for if you are able to go step by step, scrutinising each part, of this problem.
Yeah.
And getting to the correct answer.
Yeah.
Well, actually, not even getting to the correct answer, actually.
Yeah.
Getting to an answer which makes sense from what you thought about.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
It's not like you sit there in silence trying to work something out while they're silently judging you. They are going to sit there and they're going to try and talk you through it and sort of, lead you to the next point of the problem. So if you can't figure out exactly where to start, talk to them about it. Say, look, I'm confused about this, confused about that. And that leads on to my main, piece of advice that I give when talking about interviews. You have to vocalize. You have to say everything that you're thinking. And the reason for that is, even if you're thinking something incorrect, say it out loud. That way, you can say, okay, this is what I'm thinking, but here's why it's not correct. So you say why it's not right, and then they will say, okay, this person at least understands that this is not correct. Whereas if you sit there like a lemon, not saying anything, then they don't know what you're thinking, and they don't know how well you have the ability to decipher, the ability to work through a problem, to see what's wrong, to see where you're getting stuck, and to troubleshoot your own thinking abilities. Whereas if you're vocalizing everything, even if it's wrong, and you're saying that you think it's wrong, then they'll talk to you about it. They'll be like, okay, why do you think this is wrong? Maybe it's not wrong. Maybe it is correct, and in which case they'll be like, actually, I think you're a lot closer than you think you are, and eventually you'll get to a logical conclusion. And also, don't worry if there are sticking points. That's the whole point. These problems are not meant to be easy. And so the second piece of advice I have to give for interviews is to not let your mistakes affect you. So you can't afford to be dwelling on your mistakes, especially when you're going through an interview, and especially if you've got, say, for example, another interview coming up. You have to be in the moment, forget about past mistakes, as difficult as that sounds, and then carry on with whatever you've got and just make the most of whatever time you have left. Yeah. And
remember, if you have a few interviews, even if one goes badly, at the end of the day, they all come together. So if you do amazingly in two of them, and let's say one goes horribly wrong, the interviews they did well in, the interviews will vouch for you. They'll say, at the end of the day, I think they all sit around the table, don't they? And they say, right, Parth, what do you think? Yeah. And they'll all discuss that. Sen, what do you think? They'll discuss me. So like that, I think it's quite fair.
Yeah.
If you really tried your best and sort of been logical in the interviews, it'd be good. Moving on. The fourth great tip that you need to consider when getting to Cambridge is considering how teachable you are. They're looking for whether you're a person who they can sit down, they can teach, whether you're responsive to new ideas, whether you can think out of the box, and whether you can apply yourself to new situations.
So if you want to be teachable, you need to, like Sen said, be doing your work. You need to be on top of things as much as is possible whilst you're at Cambridge, which involves you managing your time effectively.
If you're quite teachable, the interview will progress onto a few different questions quite quickly. Because, you're considering your ideas. One thing that you shouldn't do is ever reject an idea. If they, for example, let's say you have an opinion. Let's say you think this is the correct way. if the interview ever suggests, maybe, consider this, try and link this sort of new bit of information to your idea and maybe change it so that it includes it, and find ways of sort of appreciating that idea, or maybe question that idea. Think, is it relevant to my problem? Is it correct? Is it factually correct? Is it not correct? And sort of incorporate it if you can. If, let's say, you suddenly say, no, I'm not going to, that's not relevant to my thing, doesn't look good to me, I don't want to take in new ideas. They don't want that here. Because you're coming here to Cambridge to learn, to further your knowledge. Not to simply, stir about the existing knowledge that you have after A-levels. Now, one really important thing about teachability, I think, is, do you listen? They really want people who can listen to ideas and sort of break apart things that they've been told. As much as, it's good being able to talk and being confident and leading a team and stuff, a good, successful academic is able to listen and appreciate others' ideas. Even if the other people are wrong.
Yeah.
They'll still listen, they'll think about those ideas, and maybe they'll respond.
Because if you aren't doing those things very well, that can have very profound implications. For me as a physicist, not being able to listen and not taking on board new ideas could mean that, for example, any experiments or any theories that I'm working on could be potentially wrong, and anything that I contribute to science would contribute to the incorrect knowledge of humankind.
So we've discussed academia, we've discussed love for subject, we've discussed how you should be open to new ideas, and we've talked about how teachable you should be, how you listen. But the last really important thing is your extracurricular activities. Now, what do you gain from doing extracurricular activities?
Yeah, as I've already mentioned, I'm a big advocate of having good physical and mental health. And extracurricular activities, I think, are one of the best ways of doing that. So something either sport-related or fitness or health-related, gym, for example. Rowing is a big thing here. You're a rower.
I've been rowing for 6 years.
You've been rowing for 6 years. That's a big thing. I play badminton, for example. And any other sport, any other sort of fitness activity to keep your body going, to keep those endorphins, going.
Not just fitness, it's music as well.
Absolutely.
From debating to music to sports, whatever interests you.
Well, that's the thing. Something sporty, I would recommend, and something arty, I would recommend. If you're not an art student already, and if you are an art student, then maybe something analytical on the side. So join the engineering society, math society. I don't know. But make yourself a well-rounded person, because at Cambridge it's important to be a well-rounded person. You won't know the amount of talented people I've met here. And
the thing is, it's just a skill to gain from extracurricular activities, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
From time management to discipline
to
organisation.
And that's the key. That is the key, is the time management. There are enough hours in the day, and you have to learn to work smart. Don't work hard, work smart. Allow yourself enough time in the day to be able to do your work to a good level, and realise when your intensity, when your thinking capacity starts to drop off. That's when you know you've got to stop and you've got to do something else, and you've got to come back to it. Because if you spend 6 hours doing useless work, there's no point. Whereas if you spend 2 hours of really solid, intense, hard work, go out and do something, overall, you've been more productive that way, even though you've spent 2 hours less altogether working. Do you see what I mean? So extracurricular activities, not only will they help you in your own personal life, but they will help you get into Cambridge as well. If that's one of the things that do get looked at.
They expect you to have done this anyway. It's kind of like an expectation. They don't expect, people to have been slaving for hours and hours, playing tennis, playing volleyball, just to be good at that.
Yeah.
They expect extracurricular activities to be part of your life, to be part of your daily routine. And just, if it's part of your daily routine already, brilliant. That's what they're looking for.
Exactly.
You shouldn't be doing things like that just to get into Cambridge. You should be doing these things because you like it.
Yeah.
If you like a musical instrument, go play it.
Exactly.
Get good at it. Go play a sport. Get good at it.
Yeah.
And they'll just realise this. They'll look at it and they'll be like, right, this person has managed to do really well in academics, they're interested in the subject, and they're doing so much extracurricular stuff. That's what we want.
Yeah. I'm so much more productive with my work because of it. Because I've switched off. I'm thinking about something else completely, and then I go back to it with a fresh mind, with a new way of looking at things, and with no fatigue, essentially.
Back at school, for example, when I was applying, I think one of the key questions you get asked in medicine is, sort of, what do you do to relax and de-stress? And my example was rowing, because this is literally what I said in the interview. Because when I rowed back at school, even now, when you are, in the middle of a piece, when you're pushing hard, you're thinking about nothing else other than that moment, pushing hard as you can, getting a technique right. You forget completely about work. And that's one of the special, amazing things about extracurricular activities.
Yeah.
It allows you to completely disconnect from your work, and you don't think about it for a good 2 hours. So when you do go back, Number one, subconsciously you probably have sort of new ideas, your mind is refreshed, you're going to work more effectively, you're going to work quicker, and all of these things will just come naturally. Simply if you just reset your mind and de-stress. And also have lots of sleep. I hope this video has been useful for you guys. So, pretty much our 5 secret tips of how to get into Cambridge.
5 secret tips. This is insightful stuff that you
don't really find anywhere else.
I suppose that's true.
The stuff we're talking about, I wouldn't say it's just from our experience.
Yeah.
It's from people we've talked to, things we've seen, and being here, you just see this around you, and you see these qualities in different people that are doing the same subject as you.
Exactly. If everybody around you is talented and you've made it there, then clearly you're talented enough to be there. And remember, if you don't get in, then it might not be because you're not talented. It might just be because Cambridge might not be the right learning environment for you.
Yes.
That's what you need to remember.
Thank you for watching, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Parth, for coming on to my channel.
Anytime.
It's been extremely insightful having you. Hopefully my viewers appreciate your lovely advice, your time.
Oh, thank you. Anytime.
And if you've got any questions, head over to Parth's channel. Again, it'll be the first link in the description. So go check it out and ask any questions that you may have.
If you've subscribed, excellent. If you haven't,
we might appreciate it. Is there any simple subscribe button?
Yeah, excellent. I see you're back. Go on, do it now. And give the video a thumbs up as well while you're at it. Why not?
Cheers, guys. So, thanks for watching, and take care. We'll see you in the next video.
See you in the next video.